Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, then a big huge welcome to you. I do apologise if my camera angle's a little bit funny again. My tripod is playing up, but I'm hoping to get it fixed at some point. But anyway, welcome to day one of World Autism Awareness Week. And I didn't really properly explain this, but I filmed this back in February, so a proper intro might have been out already, but basically what I've done, and this is throughout the whole entire week, I'm going to upload one video each day to talk about one topic during the week. And this year I've decided to collab with a few people on different subjects. And today, in this video, I'm going to be collaborating, well, sort of like an interview, but collaborating/interviewing my wonderful friend Connor of Autism Assemble. And in our interview, we talked about how the autism community has been affected by the pandemic 1 year on. So I'm going to hand everything over to Connor, and I really hope you enjoy the interview. So it is day one of World Autism Awareness Week, and I'm thrilled to announce that I'm going to be doing this collaboration with the amazing Mr. Connor Ward from Autism Assemble. Hello. And I'm very pleased to announce that he is doing very special things, but we're going to be talking about autism and the pandemic 1 year on. And Connor's got a lot to say about this, and I'm handing it over to you, Connor. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. As I said there, I'm Connor Ward. I still like now being introduced as from Autism Assemble, because that's a project that I work on with my friend Holly. It's a autism support group. It manifests in many ways. Mainly it's a Facebook group, but yeah, we get to do some quite exciting things with that, and we're ever growing. But no, I'm an autistic speaker and consultant. I basically just double in whatever area could benefit from having an autistic person present. One of the biggest areas I work in is accessible technology, helping develop tech to be supportive of those on the spectrum. So yeah, I get to do all kinds of exciting things, and as I'm sure many people people may be wondering, yes, ex-YouTuber, I think we can say ex-YouTuber.
Yeah, I mean, we can say ex-YouTuber.
Ex-YouTuber. You may have seen me share my life, but I kind of don't share my life as much these days. I just share the autism bits.
We're going to be talking about, but obviously this is filmed way back in February, so we're going to be talking about by the time this video goes up, it will be 1 year since the first lockdown happened, and it has been quite challenging for the autistic community, especially since the National Autistic Society got involved, and there were a little bit of campaigns about it and all of the things that everyone's gone through really during this time. But it has been a very interesting road ever since last March, and lots of events really happened during this time, but some people thought that they were mostly negative, but there have been some positive stuff as well. So Connor, what do you think of this year overall? Do you think if it's been mixed, or if it's in a good way or a bad way? What do you think, in your own opinion?
Well, I kind of flash back to when it was first coming about. I remember I was in London, expecting to be in London about 10 days later, and then not being able to go to London 10 days later because this whole thing had erupted. And I remember my first response being that, as lockdown was becoming apparent that was going to happen, I remember just thinking, okay, this is something that's not going to do well for the autistic community. Every rule, every routine that we've known is going to go out the window, and I did loads of things to kind of warn and just let everybody, this was when I was still uploading a lot on YouTube, but I remember putting a video saying something along the lines of, I'm scared for the autistic community about the coming times or whatever. Yeah, just reaching out and being like, look, we're all going to struggle with this because it's a change in routine. Yeah, take the virus out of it, let's not, this is going to be a massive change in routine, and that is something that historically autistic people have not done well with. So yeah, it's basically like, had we described this to ourselves 2 years ago, I think we'd all be saying, no, I won't be able to cope with that at all. Yet here we are finding, a year on from it starting, we are all kind of coping, obviously all to different extents and all at different times. But yeah, there's been many factors which have made it a lot harder, but there's also been a few things that have kind of made it easier for each other.
Do you feel that in a way, once it started, do you feel like, oh, I don't know how to put this, because this is a really difficult question to explain. Well, many questions are going to be difficult to explain because there are things that people may or may not know. But what do you think when you actually lived in the first few days about it? Did you think it was a kind of strange to go to try and do a new routine, or do you think that you were kind of like living in like in an alien sort of thing, or like a horror movie, as some people described it to me, or from which I heard within the last couple of months? I mean, what did you feel and how did you cope within the first few weeks of everything that's going on?
It's really weird because I remember, first of all, just thinking like I'm always an optimist, and I remember trying to just frame it as positively as possible. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't like going out, you know, I just, it means I don't have to encounter strangers. Like, that would be great, that would be like really great. But yeah, in reality, I couldn't just look at the positives. I definitely struggled with it at the beginning. It was daily meltdowns for me at the beginning, which wasn't nice. I think that lasted for the first couple of months, and the biggest thing that happened, well, it's weird actually, because in hindsight, that was the easiest stint of all this pandemic. And I don't think that's kind of been, well, I think we're kind of appreciating it, but it was really black and white at the beginning, because at the beginning it was just stay at home. And that was it was as simple as that. Whereas as times developed, of course, the rules have become a lot more vague, and let's just say a lot of people have been interpreting them rather differently. I've pretty much just sticked to staying with just stay at home. You know, that's the easiest way for me. I don't think I've really left lockdown until March. Obviously, there's been done a few bits, but yeah, that first bit was hard. It has got a lot easier in some ways, but it's also got a lot harder in other ways.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I've heard so many stories about how many people have been struggling with, and how many people are coping, because as though some friends and family who lived each other have, like, in the nicest way possible, had like a little bit of disagreements. And then there was one friend who I knew, he didn't really go outside. I won't mention his name because I know he may or may not like being mentioned, but he actually never went out of the house for a few months. And by the time that he did that, he said that he was low on vitamin D and he wanted to like go up, because he did try to follow the stay at home rule, but obviously because of medical reasons it wasn't really working. And this was really tough, because when you think of stay at home, people just actually think of it as like different ways, really. Some people, like yourself, Connor, just said, okay, I'll stay at home. But then as time went on, I think people got a little bit impatient with that. But when these things have happened, you've managed to find some time within the few months to actually expand Autism Assemble, because you started Autism Assemble way before the pandemic started. And I found out that you've been doing a lot more since the first lockdown, which extended to the tiers, and then the second lockdown, and way over to next year. And then when the summer came, you did a lot more bits with that, didn't you?
Not as much as I would have liked to have done. First of all, there really wasn't that much. But I found that if the people at the top, if the government weren't going to give the best information, the most clear information, and resources even, then it fell to people like myself to provide them for the community. So the first thing that kind of happened to our community, which required some kind of interjection, was when it was said that masks had to be worn in supermarkets. First of all, it was 3 months too late, but we don't need to go down that one. But there was obviously a massive problem within our community, because lots of people, it would just be a sanitary nightmare to be able to wear a mask. And whilst, well, my response to wearing masks was I just didn't leave the house anyway, so I didn't actually have to wear one. But I found out that if I wore like the thin medical masks, I was okay with them for a short period of time, which is good because it meant I just didn't go out for long. So yeah, with the face masks, of course, there came about the whole, okay, how do you show people that you're exempt, because it's going to cause friction. So on Autism Assemble, I quickly, as soon as it was announced that mandatory, I whipped up some like phone lock screens that you could have that just explained like, I've got a hidden disability. I don't have to wear a mask in accordance to this legislation, blah 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 blah, because I knew for a while there was going to be friction, and people, and especially in that kind of tense atmosphere, autistic people may not be as comfortable fully explaining or want to disclose fully as to what's going on. So just a phone screen that they could have just whacked up, then yeah, that would do the job. Obviously, you know, other tools that we did use in our community got claimed for a face mask exemption, and anybody who may have seen in the last few months that I've had a bit of a problem with, but yeah, the sunflower annuals then got taken over, didn't they?
There's been so many stuff that's been happening. Everyone felt like, not just in the autism community, but for everywhere, that's something's happened that's, how do I put this? Because this is really hard to explain without getting too political.
Oh,
but it's kind of like people feel like that they have been like hurt in some way because they didn't really have voices, and they felt like they want voices to be heard, and that's caused a massive problem which continued over the following months. And even now with the vaccines, a lot of people still think it's pretty unfair for what's happened, really.
I think there's so much to cover before we even get to vaccinations. It's not unfair to say that disabled people have been an afterthought throughout this pandemic. And that's, you know, there's been a range of things as to what that happens. For example, there is a duty of care from the government to provide clear and concise information as to what rules are. They didn't do that. They failed to do that. They provided perhaps more open to interpretation rules than they should have done. Luckily, the National Autistic Society have been absolutely brilliant throughout this entire pandemic at translating it to in an autism friendly way, to show how literal, to just make it as clear as possible. They've done that on an ongoing basis. But then there's other things that have come from above, like the do not resuscitate orders, that if somebody with a learning disability in a hospital were to be there with COVID, that they wouldn't be resuscitated if they were to, something's happened. The fact that has been imposed on our community repeatedly is disgusting, because quite simply, it is a political thing. It's disgusting how many times that our community has been put at the butt end of all of this. So yeah, it's just been horrible, but there definitely has been a responsibility to almost step up among ourselves and just do whatever we can to support each other. Whether that's me just putting the odd thing on Autism Assemble, or you uploading a YouTube video to the people that watch it. Just, yeah, I think we've all needed each other, whether that's our own small support circle or whether that's strangers on the internet. We've all needed something to get through this.
There was like one thing that when you said about like support this time, this was last year, there was a story which I found. There was a mum on one of the Facebook groups, which is completely separate to the National Autistic Society. And during the first lockdown, she was a bit worried because she has a 17-year-old son and she is a carer to him. But when he was tested positive for COVID, he had to go to one of the Nightingale hospitals, but she couldn't go with him because there's one person at a time. And you can really see the frustration that everyone's been having, and it's kind of like, in a way, it's been very stressful for everybody. But imagine with families, it is so tough. It really is tough.
The problem is there's far too much of an excuse being put on. Oh, but these are unprecedented times. It's difficult for everyone. Yes, so it's that much harder for people who are already dealing with so much injustice and all this stuff. Like, people seem to be forgetting that things like the Equality Act exist for a reason. But like, these things are in place to protect us on a basic level, and yes, things have gone out the window, but that's why every eventuality needs to be planned for. And in simple things like that, yes, it may not be the most COVID secure thing, but reasonable adjustments are there for a reason. And yeah, it's a shame to see that they've been forgotten for large parts of it.
I definitely agree. And then within like a few months from the summer to Christmas, and obviously loads of progresses have been very slow, but what did you think as time went on, when the vaccines were leading up to, as people would put it, a way out? Did you think that there was a light of hope, or did you think it was completely opposite?
I'm a bit mixed on that one. Obviously, yeah, we'll get into the vaccine itself, but like we've had this road plan now, and of course people watching this will essentially be in step, well, they would have had step 1B executed, because I think that was 28th or 29th of March. Let's see if it actually does, but I don't know, I feel a bit iffy about it. I'm very much just to take it one day at a time person anyway, because that's the only way I can really cope with it. I've kind of just got used to this is life now. Yeah, no, I'm not focusing on the end at all. You know, I will be very pleased when we get to it, but I don't want to get too excited about it. Obviously, I have my moments, which I get both very excited about and very sad about. But yeah, it's yeah, I'm very happy just taking it one day at a time to just, yeah, because that's getting me through.
Going to the vaccines now, you did something which I found so amazing, because you actually filmed a video on an autism friendly guide to having the COVID vaccine, which I believe was uploaded at the beginning of the year, where you described how the process works and what's happening, what are a few tips and all that jazz. And you had the vaccine just before you did that, and I will leave a link in the description box down below for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's really good and I would really recommend it. But how did it make you feel when you actually recorded that video? Did you feel like you always wanted to do it, or did you have a purpose for doing it?
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm really glad that you like it, because like, I know it was helpful even in you getting yours, so that's really cool. But I thought my vaccine was going to be months and months away. I knew that there wasn't going to be the materials out there for people who need it, because it just, as I say, like, we're a bit of an afterthought. So I was very lucky in how I got my vaccine, but it came around the same day. So it was all very quick. I found out in the morning, then I was getting it in the evening. But I spent all of that day looking for anything that could prepare me for it, because, you know, as much as I'm an autistic person that provides things for people, I'm still autistic myself. I still have the anxieties, and I still have all that stuff. So I need the preparation materials. Quite simply, there wasn't any. The only thing I had seen was like a little Twitter thread that someone had done, just providing some basic things. But I'm like, no, we need something full. So as I got there, it was very much a spur of the moment. Right, I'm going to take pictures of everything, just in case. You know, I don't have to think about it straight away, but I want to do something with this. I didn't know what it was yet. And then I had my vaccine, and because it was a completely smooth process, I was in a very good mindset with it. It took me a couple of days to kind of get over it, and then I was a bit busy with work stuff. And then it got to the following Wednesday, so 4 days later, and I was just like, right, I'm going to film a video, because, you know, I'm an autistic consultant. I create these kind of things professionally, so and help advise on ones that other people have created. So I know I have it in me. So I was like, right, let's just make something for free to go out there to everyone. You know, I've known videos to work and I've known PDFs to work. So I did that. I did both. I just wanted to create as detailed as I could give based on the experience that I just have to try and help people. And yeah, I'm very lucky that it's been very well received, because of course my intention with it is just to be able to help anyone that's going through the experience. And yes, I was so lucky to have my vaccine as early as I did. So I think it's only fair that because I had it that early, that I have to pass something on in some kind of way.
It was a really good thing to get like an autism friendly guide for the video, but there was always going to be a bit of hiccups when it came to the vaccine, because a lot of people I knew who were autistic, not just in the UK, but around the world, say that they are struggling to get the vaccine because of distribution reasons, or there's been mixed up in the files. I mean, like, for me, it took 3 weeks to get mine, even though I wouldn't have, because of my epilepsy, I was entitled to it. But if I wasn't epileptic, I would have to wait a bit longer.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's really hard, and it is frustrating, and I can imagine it will be still frustrating because they don't know when they're going to get it, because they'll only just follow what governments say or what devices, and when the GPs will contact them. And I wondered that, since you've had the vaccine, and if your loved ones or friends are waiting for the vaccine, do you find that if it was more planned, what could have been done to change all of this just at a quicker pace? So what do you think, in your opinion?
First of all, I think there's no way to beat around the bush with this one. Autistic people should have been higher up in the priority groups as possible, due to, like, you know, a large proportion of us not being able to wear masks, due to a large portion of us not being able to appropriately social distance because we don't have it in us to be able to sense that. So yeah, being higher up would be good. But it would also nice to really have a date on it, to just go, okay, that's happening, but in the future, because like anybody who I know who's autistic is completely all over the place with it because they don't know. I'm lucky, I'm very lucky. But also, again, the way I was thinking with the guides was that if we're not going to have a date as to when it's going to happen, I feel with a lot of people, it's just when it does come around, it's going to come around really quickly. So that's why I feel it's useful to have that kind of preparation there. But yeah, as I say, I shouldn't have been the one who had to create that. That should have been made, you know, in December, in preparation for anyone in January. Yeah, so having that kind of thing there, and just a bit more of a time frame would have been nice.
Yeah, and I know that the National Autistic Society have been doing really well in sharing with it, and I feel that even though they are continuing, I feel that they are trying really, really hard, like so many other charities, to make sure that people will have the vaccine within any community. But it's always going to be like a little bit of hiccups, and it's always going to be lots of injustice in a way, really. And this is like really hard to like talk about, because I know we've covered it a lot. So now you've had the vaccine, what do you think would be in store for the community?
I would love to think that this pandemic has perhaps opened people's eyes to, first of all, give a little bit of an insight to what our lives are like, you know, like, oh, okay, I'm scared to go outside. Well, obviously people don't feel that bit anymore, but, or like, oh, I'm scared to go near people. I don't want, you know, it's like, and oh, I feel all over the place because my routine's been ruined. And yeah, I hope that bit kind of provides a bit more sympathy going forward to the experiences that we go through. Realistically, I know that everyone's just going to get on with life and kind of forget about it. I would also like to think, though, that this pandemic has brought about a kind of a big work at home thing. And historically, there have been so many office jobs that have denied autistic people the ability to work at home because that's what's not, you know, because that's not what's been done. So why would we do that? No, that's not a reasonable adjustment, blah, 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 blah. You know, that's effort for us. Yet this year has shown that, well, you can just drop everything overnight and take your laptop home from work and work in your own confines, because, you know, like, that's been something that I know lots of autistic people have been after for ages, because, well, you don't have the anxiety surrounding travel, you're in your own comfortable environment, etc. You know where everything is, less social communication and interaction. So I'd like to hope that ultimately it opens up more opportunities for autistic people to be employed that wouldn't have been before, because I know a lot of companies are now being a lot more open-minded to, oh, okay, yeah, people don't have to work in the office just because that's what they do. People can work at home. So yeah, I'd like to hope that that's a thing out of it. I'd also like to think that, well, with the whole mask exemption stuff, with the whole sunflower lanyard stuff, obviously that's still an ongoing saga. I'd like to think that people are just a bit more aware of disabilities in general. You know, whether they abused systems or not, they still know about them now. So hopefully that means that we can rebuild in the future to make those systems better. But let's see if the organisations themselves play fair, because yeah.
With Autism Assemble, now that everything's going to try and hopefully be sorted, as well as trying to get everyone vaccinated this year, where would you like to see Autism Assemble go now you've used it as a very strong platform during the pandemic?
So first of all, you know, I really was able to produce that vaccination guide very quickly. Yes, like the first version of the PDFs that went out weren't 100% how I'd like them to be, but with it being the internet and stuff, we have the flexibility that we can update them, and they should have been updated. Yeah, no, they definitely will have been updated by the time this video is out. Providing more preparation materials, I like the fact that I was able to give a free resource. Obviously, logistically, that's not always going to be possible forever because of, like, yes, it was quick, but that was because I rushed it to put the full amount of work into things like that. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing, but the few things that have happened over the pandemic have really kind of, obviously some of it comes with what I've personally done in the autistic community prior to Autism Assemble, but it's meant that our names as Autism Assemble's been able to get out there to quite a few big well, as I say, NHS now recognise Autism Assemble. Like that in itself is incredible. So yeah, just to be able to provide the support to anyone on the spectrum, anyone who's a friend of, parent of, carer of, or someone who just works with, whatever, to continue to provide that. I really would, and I'm still working out the logistics. I love to make sure that there's regular content on there, but unfortunately with just how my life works, that's not really possible at the moment. So as soon as yeah, like, let's go behind the scenes a bit. As soon as financially it makes sense to employ people to put stuff on there, that will be what happens. Not quite there yet, but I don't think it will be too far. So there's that kind of stuff that I want to do with it. I just want it to grow to become a place that supports people, and grow beyond just the Facebook group. Because, well, there's one thing that we've done outside the Facebook group, the Autism Show. We did the webinar week last year, like, it should be out there by now, but we're doing the webinar week again this year. So the week beginning the 12th of June. Our Autism Assemble days are the 18th and 19th of June. So it's 2 days full of autistic speakers that I've curated the speaker list for and stuff. I want to take the platform as far as possible to be able to help as many people as possible. Simple as.
Oh, that's brilliant. And it was really great collaborating with you, Connor, and it was just like great for all the answers with everything you do. And I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but everything's come a long way for the community, and everyone's had its ups and downs, but we're hoping that in a few years' time, or maybe next year, we're keeping our fingers crossed for the future. So Connor, thank you so much for collaborating with me today, and I really enjoyed collaborating with you and talking about how it's been going for a year on since the pandemic. And I wish you all the best, especially for the Autism Show in June. I absolutely cannot wait, and I really will try to catch the show as much as I can, even though it's not going to be face to face, but it's going to be online.
It's really funny hearing you say, like, best of luck with the show. It's like, I'm going to speak to you many times between now and the show, but yes. But that's what this is, the illusion of camera. See, this is the stuff I don't get to do anymore because I don't do the YouTubery stuff, so I don't have to say things like that. And I'm now just lifting down Cesar's veil, so I shall stop. But yeah, cool. Thank you very much, is what I should say.
Oh, and I will leave the links to Autism Assemble description box down below. And if you can, make sure you actually go check out the Autism Assemble group. They do amazing stuff on there. And if you want to become a part of it, please do. It's an amazing group. It's got wonderful people, and it's a very inclusive community.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Connor, and brilliant. Thank you so much. So a massive thank you to Connor for collaborating or interviewing with me, and I really enjoyed it. I really did. So tomorrow I will be back for day 2, but I will be collaborating with Andy of Indie Andy, where we will be continuing our discussion about autism and the pandemic. And I will leave the links in the description box down below for all of the links that I mentioned in today's video, but I will also leave a link for the next video in the near future in case if you want to rewatch any of the World Autism Awareness Week videos once again. And until then, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and as always remember to keep on dreaming and never stop believing. Stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!